Hello again, my YouTube fans. Well, I finally got the books. Yes, they were a little late, but I did get them. So this is the old book. I put a little cover on it, and this is the new one. Now, I'm going to move these books and set up the chess set in a few minutes, but I wanted to first thank, I have comments here starting from most recently 1 month ago, all the way, I went back to 2 years. I was getting comments on this video thanking me profusely because they were lost without my video and all this other stuff. The video we're referring to, of course, is 13 years ago, talking about old style notation. I even had one little bit of a wise guy saying, yeah, we call that descriptive. Yeah, all right. So in any case, I want to first thank Chris E., most recently, who asked me, he thanked me for, of course, the same way a lot of other people did, but he asked me for a more intensive explanation. And you ask and ye shall receive. I'm going to do that as of today. And in fact, I'm probably going to split these videos up because I've learned in the past that the shorter the video, the better the viewers. I mean, the longer the viewers. I'm not sure. But sometimes I made my videos a long time ago way too long. So here we go. Yeah, so just to mention a couple of the viewers, Jeffrey Benton, who reminded me that we don't need to mention the specific bishop in the descriptive notation when the other bishop can't go there anyway. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to do a little bit of education on the descriptive notation and compare it to algebraic. I also want to mention things like the reason why I have these books here. Everything on this side is algebraic notation. Everything on this side is descriptive, with the exception of the fact that I have one behind here. Oh, I did want to mention Evan Pounds from almost a year ago had mentioned that he has this book, and he wanted to thank me because he was lost. He didn't understand it until he saw my video from 2013. So that's the one I really wanted to mention. And like I said, there's quite a few here. I got the lists here. Here, there you go. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, there you go. You saw it. So I'm going to show you, for example, there are some differences in the notation, both in the descriptive and in the algebraic. For example, this new book, the complete course, chess course, which is the new version of this one, this one is descriptive and this one is algebraic. This is actually in what they call figurine algebraic. This one is in descriptive, of course. So what does that mean? Well, let me see if I can see if I got the right page here. Yeah. Okay, so I've got this pamphlet kind of book I made up myself that I printed out like a dozen years ago or more. And I'm going to get up to show it to you. I printed it up. It was a PDF out of a computer. And this is, let me see if I can get the light on it right. Is it focused? This is, this is figurine algebraic notation. So what they do is they show little pictures of the piece, knight, okay, f3, knight c3, that sort of thing. The rook is a rook. In other words, it's a picture. It's a figurine of the actual piece. Whereas the regular algebraic notation, as you know, is the capital letters are for the pieces. For example, this is, oh, here we go. There's another book with the figurine algebraic notation. I didn't realize that. I thought I had that book on top. But let's go ahead and show you one with right on the cover. For example, this is your everyday algebraic notation. Okay, so this is the Versov attack. Okay, and then of course you can actually, when algebraic notation was starting to be used more like 1980 and on. They started with long algebraic, so they would actually say, for example, they would name the piece and then where the piece, what square the piece was on, and then they would move the piece to the square. So it would be like, for example, let me see, knight on G1 to whatever square, say F3 or something like that. Whereas now they're doing a little less of that, so they're not repeating the name, so they're just, it's understood that that knight is the one, so they just simply say knight c3 or knight f3 or whatever. In other words, they don't have to name the square that it's on. So that's shortening it a bit. And I think they did a little bit of that in the descriptive notation as well. So there's that. So now that we've done that, I'm going to move these books. We're going to pause and I'm going to move these books. And I'll be right back and I'll set up the pieces. I came back. Okay, I know that was only for a split second for you, but it was more like 10 minutes for me. Okay, so let's go ahead and learn why the descriptive notation is confusing to some people, and I'm going to make it easy. In fact, I did a lot of learning when I started to read the books, and I realized it was a lot easier than I thought. So in descriptive notation, the way it differs from algebraic notation, in algebraic notation, of course, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starting from the white side, okay? And each square has a single name. So for example, this is D5, this is E5, etc. That's algebraic notation. But in descriptive notation, the old-fashioned notation is, excuse me, the squares are named for the pieces and a name for both the black and the white. So for white, this is rook 1, this is rook 2, this is rook 3, this is rook 4, etc. This is knight 1, knight 2, knight 3, knight 4, etc. But it's the same for the black, because for the black it's also rook 1, rook 2, rook 3, rook 4. So unlike the algebraic notation where you just simply name the square and you know where it is, that was funny, you have each side has the same, so each square has this, its own name for each side. That is, each square has 2 names. So this is king 4 for white, but it's king 5 for black. Okay? Now, getting to the confusing part about the king's bishop and the queen's bishop, etc. It's very simple. This is the king, this is the king's bishop, this is the king's knight, this is the king's rook. This is the queen, so this is the queen's bishop, this is the queen's knight, and this is the queen's rook. That's why they can name the squares. So it's not about where the pieces are originally, so that you don't get confused as to how do I know if that's the king's knight or if that's the queen's knight. It's just the name of the square. We'll talk about the name of the actual square. So right now this is the queen's knight. So this square is queen's knight 2, queen's knight 3, queen's knight 4, etc. Just as for the black, this is queen's knight 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? For the black, this is queen's knight 8. For the white, this is queen's knight 1. Okay, so each square has that name. Now, if during the game a knight ends up on the other side of the board anywhere, okay, this is still, the square is still queen's knight 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, queen's knight 4. So if you're moving from this square to any whatever square, you're going to say knight, queen's knight 4, or simply queen's knight 4 to whatever square. Okay? It doesn't matter that this knight was originally the king's knight. You're worried about the square itself. So now let's get the pawns on. So this is the rook pawn, this is the knight pawn, this is the bishop's pawn, etc. Okay? King pawn, queen pawn, bishop again, queen's bishop pawn, queen's knight pawn, queen's rook pawn, if I can reach. Okay? We're going to do the same with the black. This is the queen's rook pawn, this is the queen's knight pawn, this is the queen's bishop pawn, this is the queen pawn, the king pawn, king's bishop pawn, king's knight pawn, and the king's rook pawn. Okay? It's as simple as that. So, where in algebraic notation, the king's, let's make sure these pieces are set up right. I just want to make sure, okay, yeah. All right, so in algebraic notation, we know the king's pawn opening, the one that everybody seems to like to play all the time, the Bobby Fischer thing, is E4 and E5. Well, in descriptive notation, it's pawn king 4, pawn king 4. Okay. Knight, king's, bishop 3. See, now I don't have to say the king's knight because it's already understood that the other knight can't go there. So it's knight, the king's, bishop 3. This is the king's bishop, and this is 1, 2, 3. Okay? I can do the same thing with the other side. He's going to defend it, so he's going to put knight, queen's, bishop 3. So he's defending the pawn that I'm attacking, for example. Okay? In algebraic notation, as you know, it's knight c3. I mean, excuse me, knight f3, and the other black side it was knight b6. I mean, sorry, knight c6. See, I'm already messing that one up. So knight f3, knight c6. That's algebraic notation. In descriptive, it's knight, king's, bishop 3, knight, queen's, bishop 3. So in a sense, it's not really that much longer if you think about it. But I envy those who had to write it down that way when they're playing in a tournament. But they did it. They did do that. So, I mean, I make mistakes as it is when I'm playing a game. When we were playing over the board games, I made mistakes when I was playing a game at the chess club that I had to write down my moves. So, for example, one of the things that I haven't really looked hard into yet, but I'm sure it's easy to figure out. That is, for example, when there are two pieces, for example, say 2 rooks, that can reach the same square, okay? Okay. In algebraic notation, you could simply say the rook on G. Say I wanted to go to E5, the rook on G to E5, okay? Or if it was the other one you wanted to move, it would be the rook on D to E5. So you'd have to say that, and half the time, and the same thing with the knights. You can't do that with bishops anyway, so that doesn't, the conversation is null and void with the bishop. But the same thing with the knights. You know, if 2 knights can reach the same square, you have to name where the knight is. So both knights can reach here. You know, you have to tell which knight it is. And that goes for the ranks too. Sometimes it's not on a different file. Sometimes it's on a different rank. Okay, so the knight on 3 as opposed to the knight on 5 can reach f4, for example. Okay, now I didn't look this up in any book yet, but I'm pretty sure I can figure that out. In descriptive notation, you would say which square it's on, and knowing that you have 2 names for each square, it just simply depends on whose move it is. If it's white's move, it's the white's named square. So if it's the knight, for example, let me see. Both these knights can reach this square. Okay, so if I wanted to say it's white's move and I wanted to say knight to king 5, for example, I would have to specify which knight. So I would have to say king's bishop knight, for example, if I want to move that one, or the queen's, queen 2 knight, or something like that. Queen 3, right? Excuse me. In other words, I would name the square. Whether I name the entire piece or just the square that it came from, I don't think it really matters, as long as you know which one it was that you want to move to that same square, if both pieces are able to reach the same square. We're going to go further into that, because what we're going to do in near future videos, I might try to do one tonight, see if we could squeeze a game in tonight after we pause, but we're going to explore that as we play some games out of these books. And what I'm going to try to do is actually shout the names out, name all my moves, out loud, and we're going to play a game. I'm going to have my helper here move the pieces on the other side, whichever side he or she is playing. I'm actually joking with her. She's actually in the room. I'm trying to be a little humorous here. But in any case, we're going to pause it for a second, and we're going to start thinking about how to set up an actual game, and we'll do just one tonight. Okay, so we got the board set up, and you're seeing a side view, of course, now. So what we're going to do, as you can see, my hands are on the both books. I have the old book on my left side, and I have the new book on my right side. And I'm going to state the descriptive, and then I'm going to state the algebraic, and we're going to play this game. Now this is from, by the way, in the book, the complete course, complete chess course, from the 9 Bad Moves, book 2. I wonder if I can get that on camera. Maybe I could just about see it, but it's there. And they're both books. Like I said, this is the old one, and this is the old one. This is the new one. Now, my purpose here is not to read all this to you and not to give you the lesson. And I highly recommend this, by the way, if you can find. I'm sure you can find one. I got it from the House of Staunton, and this was actually the catalog they gave me. And this was actually what they call a shop-worn book. To tell you the truth, it looks brand new to me, so I paid less for it. So the purpose is not to teach you the lesson. The purpose is to move the pieces as they're written in the book and state them in both different notations. So I'm going to entirely skip everything that's written here. Okay? Here we go. Pawn to king 4, e4. Pawn to king 4, e5. Okay, where am I? Knight to king's bishop 3. Knight f3. Knight c6. I'm sorry, I was supposed to give you the descriptive first. Okay, knight king's bishop 3. Knight c6. Black moves knight c6. Wait, I'm sorry. Am I making a mistake? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do that again. See, I'm making a mistake already. I'm supposed to be teaching you guys. All right, so the last two moves were knight king's bishop 3 and knight queen's bishop 3. That's just okay. That was the mistake. Okay, so real quick, pawn to king 4, pawn to king 4, which is the same as e4, e5. Now I think that's the way we should do this. I think we should make both moves and then stop and go. All right. Next move is knight king's bishop 3, which is the same as knight f3.
That's queen.
Oh, am I really messing up this video that bad? I'm sorry, people. I am so sorry. Okay, we're going to try this one more time. And this time, see, I made it sound so easy when I was telling you how to do it, but I'm messing it up already. Okay, so enough of the humor. I think what we're going to do, so that, because I'm reading both books, that's my problem. I think we're going to do the descriptive moves, and then I'm going to go to the algebraic and say it. Okay? So we already did the pawns. The next move is knight king's bishop 3, and black moves knight queen's bishop 3. Okay? And that is the same as, this is easier. Okay? I don't have to walk and chew my gum at the same time. And that was the same as knight f3 and knight c6. It is hard to read this book, by the way. It is kind of crunched up, even though it's in boldface. So that's, I'm going to spread that book out a little bit better. All right, so move 3 is bishop to bishop 4. Okay, so obviously the only way to do that, as you can see on the camera, is that you can't do that to the other bishop. And black's move is pawn to bishop 3. Okay, now the reason why they didn't specify which pawn is because the queen's bishop pawn can't move because it's being blocked by the knight. So those two moves, by the way, that pawn to bishop 3 was a questionable move, but I'm not going to get into the lesson. So that in algebraic was bishop c4 and f6. Okay? Right. Okay. So it goes on to explain, this was a bad move because this, that, and the other thing. And now we're going to move on to move 4. And I'm going to find it in both books. I got it in my left hand. Where's move 4 in my right hand? Okay, now they're separating it. Okay. Knight, rook 4. Now, obviously, this knight can't go there. So it has to be this knight. Rook 4. No, wait. Wait. Knight, rook 4. Oh, yeah, it is this knight. If this knight can't go there, so it's this knight. Knight, rook 4. Okay? And I'm going to wait for black's move because they separated it this time. That would be, of course, knight h4. Okay? And then it goes on to explain the lesson. And black's move is 4. Pawn the king's knight 4. Pawn the king's knight 4. Right. Which is g5. Okay? So far so good? I'm not messing up this time? Alright, so they got this kind of separated. I don't know if I should show you this on camera. Because instead of putting it right next to each other like they did in the beginning, okay, they started to separate the moves. So it's a little bit difficult to read, but I'm getting there. Alright, that was move 4, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now move 5 is here. It's queen to rook 5 check. This is my queen, this is rook 5 for me, and that in fact is check. In algebraic notation, that would be queen h5 check. Okay, black moves, let me just look at the descriptive notation. King to king 2, which in algebraic notation is king e7. Okay, move 6 is knight to f5. Knight to f5. Okay, and that was algebraic, and I'm doing it backwards now because I had that in my right hand. In descriptive, that would be knight to bishop 5. Okay, and by the way, that's mate. So that was a quick and if not clumsy game to demonstrate the differences between the two notations. There is something I forgot to mention. In some of the oldest books, instead of using the letter N or figurine, is this the one? Or is it the other one? The other? No, this is not the one. They use KT in some of the really old books. It's this one. I think we mixed them up. It's this one, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So in some of the oldest books, like this one from Modern Ideas in Chess by Richard Reddy, or Rieti, I don't know how you spell it or pronounce it. Okay, the knight was always KT. Can you see that? No? Nod your head? Okay, so the knight is KT in some of these really old books. And they even use the word castles instead of the 00 or the 000. But in the later descriptive notation, they started to use the letter N. The confusion between the king, the K, and the knight, obviously knight is spelt with a K, K-N-I-G-H-T, but they finally decided enough of this nonsense, let's go with the letter N because it sounds like an N. But like I said, in the older books, it was KT, and they didn't even use the double O or the triple O. They used the word castles. And if it was castle king side or queen side, if both sides were open, they would have to specify by the letter K or the letter Q. So just so you knew that. Okay, and I think that'll be today's video. I don't know how many minutes it is so far, but I'm going to try to make this a sort of series. I'm going to try to do this perhaps further into the book. Perhaps I'll just simply give an interesting game, and I might use descriptive notation to do it, because I don't always want to have to use both of the books, but I haven't decided yet. Nevertheless, I want to thank everybody again for making their comments and asking me to do a video that describes the descriptive notation better. And I apologize for the clumsiness that we started. It was an experience. And please subscribe and all that stuff. And you're welcome in advance. Thank you for watching.